Hey guys, welcome back to the vlog. This is episode number 4, and today we play the free roll at the House Club Poker Room and Lounge in Edinburg, Texas. We are playing for a first prize ticket into the big tournament that has a prize of a $10,000 buy-in to the WPT Diamond event and a trip to Vegas. Okay, so the first hand we're gonna go over here, we are in the big blind. We look down at Queen 9 off. It checks around, there's like 3 players in. I go ahead and just check it. We flop top pair, and what the heck? Just go ahead and throw out a small bet of 400 and take it down. Next hand, I see pocket 8s. I'm in the small blind, I got a couple extra chips, so I might as well just bump it up a little bit. Let's throw out 600, 400 more, we get 2 callers. Flop comes King 9-7 offsuit, checks all the way around. We have, again, pocket 8s. The turn is a 6, which is going to bring an open-ended straight draw for our pair. So any 10 or 5 is going to give us a straight. The river actually is a tricky card. It's an 8, which gives us 3 of a kind, which is a little dangerous, but the guy who is in the big blind who bets into me, he acts like he really wants me to call, which makes me think that he actually really wants me to fold. He throws out 1,800, which is almost all of his and my chips. I go ahead and throw it in there and say, hey, I got a set. He says, it's good. So we end up taking a pretty good pot there. It's always nice to win with the set, especially when it's such a straighty board. And it's going to be the end of the first level. Now we're going to see 200 and 300 blinds. So the first good hand that I see in the 200-300 level is going to be the Ace-10 offsuit in the small blind. This is a pretty good chance to go ahead and raise it up to 900 since everybody just kind of limped in. We do get 3 callers, which is pretty good, but we see an ugly flop of 8-5 deuce with 2 spades. Checks around. Then we see a pretty good turn card. It's going to be the Ace of Spades. Again, I'm not too worried about the flush draw because I think somebody would have thrown out a bet if they had a flush draw on the flop. So the river comes a 10 of clubs, which is going to give us top 2 pair, and a pretty good hand. So we go ahead and throw out 2,000, and everybody folds. So that's a pretty solid result for that hand. So the next hand we're going to go over is going to be look down at Ace Jack of Diamonds under the gun +1. So we're second to act and we want to get some value from our big hand. So we go ahead and throw out a 4 times the big blind raise of 1,200. We pick up 1 caller, which I'm not too worried about. And the flop is going to come out Queen Deuce 4 with 1 diamond. So we have an overcard and a backdoor flush draw. Hits my hit range pretty hard, so I go ahead and throw out 1,600 just to kind of see what he's got. He didn't have anything, so he just lays it down, which I'm pretty happy about. So the very next hand I see under the gun is going to be Ace-King offsuit. I go ahead and make that same standard raise again to 1,200, and everybody believes me, so they just fold this time. Too bad, could have made some value from that one. So for the next hand that comes up, I'm in the big blind. The big blind ante has just started, so I've got 800 already invested in the pot. The under the gun player is jammed for 1,400 total, and it folds around to me. It seems like a pretty reasonable call since it's just going to be heads up, and I have pretty solid chances of coming out ahead on this one, which I do. He's got low cards, and he was trying to steal it. I end up taking down a pot and knocking out a player. So the very next hand, it folds around to me in the small blind. I look down at Ace-Queen offsuit. I notice that my opponent in the big blind has a super short stack and he's already got 800 invested. I go ahead and shove all in, put him to a decision for all of his chips. Even if he calls and wins, it won't be that much of an effect on my stack. However, he just goes ahead and lays it down and I show him Ace-Queen face up to let him know I'm not in there just messing around. Off to a very good start. A bunch of good hands. It's just been a good round, a good solid round. My stack is up to 17,400 from a starting stack of 3,500. Average stack is like 7,000 right now, so that's pretty good. I've seen pretty much only good stuff so far. Let's hope we can keep this momentum going. But, you know, all the regulars are here today. A bunch of good players. So let's see if we can make something happen by the second break. So my second hand back from the break, I looked down at 3-4 of hearts in the big blind. A couple of players have just called, so I go ahead and just see the flop, and it's a pretty good one. It's deuce 3-10 with 2 hearts. So I got middle pair and a flush draw. I go ahead and lead out for 600, and one player to my left calls. The turn is pretty favorable as well. It's a deuce of club, which is now going to give me 2 pair plus the flush draw. I lead out for 1200, and the player to my left calls again. The river card is very favorable. It's going to be the king of hearts. Now, I'm not worried about a higher flush at this point because I assume that if my opponent had a higher flush, he would have let me know by now. So I go ahead and lead out for 2000 and take down another pot. Here in this next hand, I decided it's time to get a little out of line and use my stack to my advantage. I look down at 7-10 of diamonds in middle position. Blinds and antes are so big, there's already 1500 in the middle before there's even a bet. I raise it up to 18 and everybody just folds, so I take down another small pot. In this next hand, I look down at pocket 9, second to act. I make my standard open to 3 times the blind and get a late position caller. Neither one of us seem to connect with the flop or the turn or the river, which pairs the board. So I go ahead and turn my hand into a bluff and make about 2/3 pot bet. This actually gets the job done, and the bluff pays off this time because my opponent just lays it down. So in this next hand, I'm in the big blind again. I look down at 10 deuce, the old Doyle Brunson. Checks around with 3 players, so I go ahead and let's see a flop. Comes out a flop bottom pair with the deuce. Turn 2 pair, king comes out on the turn, checks around again. And the river card is actually very favorable for my hand. It's another deuce. We're gonna river the full house. Throw out 2000, we'll get 1 player to call, and guess what, our full house is good, and we take down yet another pot. All right, so we've done it again. We're at the final table. I believe there's 8 left. I have 23,300 in my stack. I'm going to go ahead and do my double add-on, so that'll give me 40,000 more. So I'm gonna have 63,000. I'm feeling pretty good going into the final table. These are the final levels. I'm gonna start getting really aggressive again. I'm gonna start using my stack to my advantage. I'm gonna have 60,000. I believe it's gonna be 16, 16, 8. With the big blind, pretty good about it. So far, so good. I got some great things done early on. So I started off with like a pretty big stack right off the bat, and I've kind of just held it since then. So now I really need to make some moves and pick up some hands. I haven't seen any big hands yet today, except for I had ace queen suited once. I had ace king once, and the biggest pair I've seen so far tonight is pocket 9. So the final table is the perfect place to start picking up big hands, which is what I plan to do now. So let's get So in this next hand, after the blinds have gone up, I look down at ace queen suited in early positions. Go ahead and bump that up to 6,000. I get 1 caller in late position, and I'm feeling pretty good about my hand so far, especially when I see the flop come out of deuce 3-4 with 2 hearts, giving us a straight draw and the nut flush draw. I check, my opponent checks behind, we see a turn that's a deuce of diamonds. We still have a pair, or we now have a pair and a flush draw and a straight draw. I checked my opponent, he bets for 6,000. We call. The river comes out pretty brick. It's a 7 of spades. So I check, my opponent checks, and I'm thinking that my ace high is gonna be good until he turns over 2 jacks. So wish I could have won that one. So in this next hand, I'm feeling a little tilted. I looked down at ace 7 suited from under the gun and decided to try to see a flop. Pick up a couple of collars and hopefully I can hit a good flop and make something happen with this hand. Comes out queen 3-6 with 1 spade. I check to my opponent in the button who leads up for 3,000. I got a backdoor nut flush draw and an overcard, so I go ahead and see it. The turn is very good. It's a king of spades giving us that nut flush draw. I check it over to my opponent who's showing aggression and he leads out for 5,000. This is a great time to call and hit a big card on the river. It's gonna be a spade. I know it's gonna be a spade, but no, it's a 6 of clubs. I check, my opponent checks. I'm thinking maybe my ace high is good at this point. Unfortunately, turns over a queen deuce for a flopped queen, so wish I could have that one back. A couple hands later, I look down at a beautiful ace king in the button position. And there's really not much else to do here. I go ahead and jam all in. Ready to see take down a big pot with this one, at least pick up some blinds, and there's a couple of callers already. The small blind over jams on me, so I'm really hoping he's got like an ace jack, ace 10 type of hand. I flip over my ace king confidently and he flips over ace king also. He's got the clubs though to go with it, so just need to avoid some clubs and we can chop it up. Ooh, club on the flop, no club on the turn, no club on the turn, no club on the turn. Ugh, what a sigh of relief that washes over me at this point. Go ahead and chop that one up. In this next hand, I'm under the gun +1. I look down at 2 6s. This is either a shove or fold here. I don't want to try to see a flop. Set mining is just not very valuable for me right now. And I can't really afford to lose chips, so I just rip it all in. And luckily I get the best result that I could kind of hope for, which is everybody just folds and I take down some blinds. Here's one I wish I could have back. I am in late position. I look down at ace 6 of hearts. Unfortunately, the player to my right raises to 10,000. You can see here that I would have flopped 2 pair and they would have been good. Unfortunately, my player to my right's pocket 5s held up and he gets that big pile of chips that should have been mine.
Really, bro? You're gonna. Yeah.
Big calls?
Open up.
All right.
Yeah, Molly.
Ah, look at that. Beautiful.
Now I want to say what it called. Hey, well, at least we get that right there.
All right, well, we're still in it. We're at the break. There's 6 players left. It has not been very good for me so far. I still haven't seen any big hands. I had the only 2 hands that I won. I started out this level, okay, first of all, I started out with 64,000, and I'm coming back into after this break with like 25. It's not been a good level. I've just been getting blinded out. I haven't caught any good hands. The 2 times that I did get it in, I got it in with ace king against ace king, and it was a chop. A couple of hands later, I got it in again with queen jack against queen jack, and it was a chop. But those are basically the only 2 hands that I've been involved in. Basically, otherwise I've just been blinded out. So I need to hit something big now. I still haven't really seen any big pocket pairs at all. Nothing 10s and up. The only thing I've seen throughout this entire tournament so far was 9s once really early on. So I think it's time for some of those big hands to hit me, and to hit me hard, because there's 6 players left and there's like 3 big stacks and maybe 2 smaller stacks than me, and I'm like kind of right in the middle. That might not be right. I might be like at the very end. I might have the smallest stack, but we'll see what happens. This is actually usually where I do the best. Usually I end up finding something, getting it in good, and get some chips and take it down. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I think my card karma is on its way back to me right now. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling good. I'm praying to the poker gods right now to give me some good cards and let me win that first place tickets. I need to get a ticket into the big tournaments. Please. So let's get back in there and see what we can make happen. So here we are, under the gun. We look down at Queen Jack offsuit. We have 7 big blinds behind, so really nothing else I can do here except for try to pick up some blinds and rip it in. Let's just see what happens. Queen Jack suited with 6 players left. It wasn't suited. Queen Jack with 6 players left. There's just not much you can do about it. It's kind of too strong to let go, and too weak to shove, but I shoved it anyway. Just right on the line there. It's definitely in the range of shoving. This is the second tournament in a row that I busted in 6th. This time 33 players started, so I still feel good about it though. I still feel like I made the right decisions most of the way through, with the exception of the last hand. But pretty happy about it. I'm happy about the way I played. And I'm going to take one of these down before you know it. Big tournament coming up this weekend, and I'm super excited about. And we are gonna make some money this weekend. That is for sure. That I know.